Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie. That's Heath. We got the roster trends from the moves that you made on Tuesday night. Remember, waivers are going to run on Wednesday in a lot of leagues as well. So this is a good sneak peek to see who is being added, who's being dropped, and obviously some trades that you're making as well. Let's start with the most added players for the moves again on Tuesday night on CBSSports.com leagues. No surprise, the two running backs at the top, Devontae Booker, Daryl Williams, and then Kadarius Toney coming in at third, the wide receiver for the Giants, coming off two very good games. A monster game in week number 5 against the Cowboys. Need some streaming quarterbacks. The number one guy, Carson Wentz. He's got very high projections according to Sportsline. And then you see the DSTs, some kickers, and David Njoku being streamed for this week as well as Hunter Henry. But his roster percentage is already 61% going into Tuesday night. So, Keith, let's start with the running backs here. You got Devontae Booker. We talked about a little bit with the injuries to Saquon Barkley. Barkley not practicing on Wednesday. One other note in relation to the Giants, Sterling Shepard says he hopes to return in week 6. We could talk about that in a second. But for Booker, you're the highest guy on him. You think he's a number 2 running back this week?
Yeah, and it's just solely because, and you look at what happened last week, he completely dominated touches in that game, including targets. He had an 11% target share, which was the same as Evan Ingram. I think you're going to see a game where he gets 16-plus carries and probably 4 or 5 targets as well, and he won't be very efficient with them, but you know he's their most likely guy to score a touchdown as well, so I'm probably going to start him.
Does he need to be successful in the passing game, knowing how this game can unfold with their chasing points? Because I don't think they're going to be very competitive, looking at what the Rams look like right now and what the Giants look like offensively with all the guys out.
Yes, I think you're going to need him to catch 4 or 5 passes, and I think he probably will.
All right, had 3 catches last week, taking over for Saquon Barkley against the Cowboys. Adam Mazur's with us now. Adam, you can talk about Daryl Williams. So the second most added player on Tuesday night's waiver moves. We know he's stepping in for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe for several weeks, as Edwards-Helaire was placed on IR. So at least a 3-week window that you're going to get the opportunity for Daryl Williams to be a good fantasy asset for you. Talk about this week, though, in this matchup for the Chiefs taking on the Washington football team. Do you feel comfortable enough to start him?
I do. I like him a little bit better than Devontae Booker just because I like the Chiefs offense a lot better than I like the Giants offense this week. So I think Williams is a start. You start him over the Thursday night guys, maybe not Fournette. You probably start Fournette over him, but you start him over the Eagles guys. And Washington has a good run defense. That's the one thing that scares me a little bit. I guess if there's another thing that scares me, it's that we don't always get it right when it comes to these replacement running backs. Sometimes, Rodney Smith had all the passing downs work for the Panthers, and guys that come out of nowhere. But I think Daryl Williams is definitely going to have a role and enough touches. They've got a good run defense in Washington, but they give up a lot of points. Their defense overall has been bad, so I see some touchdown opportunity for Daryl Williams, and I think he's a good number 2 running back.
He had twice last season in the playoffs. He got the opportunity for double digits and carries and scored at least 12 PPR points in those games. Adam, I'll stick with you here on Kadarius Toney because I know you've been very fond of the rookie wide receiver for the Giants, looking like a star last week. But if there is no Daniel Jones, do you trust him enough with Mike Glennon, knowing now that Sterling Shepard is back, to take on the Rams?
If it's Glennon and not Jones, I think he's a number 3 receiver. I think you can get double-digit PPR fantasy points, and hopefully you get a touchdown. He, I believe, has the most yards after catch in the last 2 weeks, so he doesn't need a great quarterback. In fact, he produced pretty well with Glennon in the last week's game against Dallas, so he doesn't need a great quarterback. He's so explosive and can make people miss. If Jones plays, I think he's a must-start. I'll probably be higher on him than a lot of people because I don't really fear the Rams matchup so much. They don't use Jalen Ramsey to shadow anybody, and if Shepard's back, I think that's actually probably good news for Toney in this matchup. And the Rams, by the way, just lost one of their top cornerbacks. He's on IR. So I'm all systems go with Toney if Jones plays. If Jones does not play, I think he's a number 3 receiver.
You feel the same way?
I'm not quite as confident as he is, but I do think that if Jones plays, you're starting him as a number 2, and he's a borderline number 2 with Mike Glennon as well. It may be more telling what other wide receivers come back. Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard come back.
So
that could impact the targets.
Just while you're on that, they both practiced today. So right. Shepard practiced Wednesday, Slayton practiced Wednesday. So now we have these guys back, but no Galladay.
Yeah, and so I think if those guys are both back in the game, then you're looking at Toney as more of a high-end number 3 with Daniel Jones and more of a flex with Mike Glennon.
All right, so we'll see how things go for the Giants with everybody there, minus Kenny Galladay, but at least you can see the 2 slot receivers, how they're going to use both Toney, both Shepard. Hopefully they kick Shepard outside and allow Toney to keep building off what he did each of the last 2 weeks.